Who exactly is Horrortale sænz? Horrortale sænz is a sænz created by the legendary deviant artist Toriel Studio, who also created the famous Horrortale demo as well as the Horrortale comic, and is currently working on a newly Horrortale point-and-click adventure game which will cover the events of Aliza entering Waterfall. But who exactly is Horrortale sænz? Well, Horrortale sænz is a sænz who lived in the underground after a brutal neutral run. After Frisk defeated Asgore and killed a lot of monster and damaged Mettaton, Monsterkind was forced to pick out Undyne as the new ruler of the underground, and she became the Empress, which main goal is to kill the human. But her main goal has to wait, since depression and the fact that the core is extremely damaged. We don't know if Frisk damaged the core at this timeline or if it was simply a result of this brutal neutral run. Whoever damaged this core, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that the core is the main source of energy which is responsible for creating energy, electricity, and most importantly, magic-based food all around the underground. Thanks to this destroyed core, no more food can be created anymore. So Undyne calls out for all the smart eggheads in the entire underground to gather around and try to fix the core. Sænz was one of them, but at first he ignored the call of adventure and thought that everything will be alright once again, and that there are more capable people all around the underground that were able to fix the core once again. So at first he doesn't feel like giving much more contribution into fixing the core, since he is already helping the underground by distributing food all over the underground and looking out for all the residents in Snowdin. But after Grillbees, who needs all this magic food to maintain his flame form without getting burned himself or living in excruciating pain, starts to melt down, burn down in this case, with excruciating pain without being able to die, and begs sænz to literally go to the core and try to help fix it, sænz decides to go to the core and help Queen Undyne and Alphys into fixing the core. So when he first enters the lab, he presents them an emergency solution for the core problem, which would ensure that the underground would at least have some food. But once again, sænz notes that this is only a short-term solution, but more on that later, since Alphys noticed something about sænz, more notably about sænz's eye. In the meantime, Undyne is struggling with an underground that lost all hope, an underground that is starving, and a destroyed core that still doesn't produce as much food as she wants. Many monsters have died thanks to starvation, and some monsters, especially the Tammies, have already resorted to cannibalism, while all of them cry out for Undyne to help them. And she sits there and can do nothing about it. So her only solution would be, in her eyes, to just end it all. So she just goes to Waterfall, where she first met Alphys, and decides to jump down, which would result into her, well, to keep it YouTube friendly, facing the same fate Mami did in the Madoka Magica PlayStation Portable game when Homura was able to save her, but Mami learns about how witches are created and has enough time to make her peace, making it official that Mami's life is suffering. The same can be said about Sayori. If you know the meme, I gently open the door. Ironically, the person who stops Undyne from committing this Sayori event is Alphys, who is notorious for committing the Sayori event in most of the brutal neutral endings in Undertale. Alphys does it by telling Undyne about sænz's eyes. Alphys found out that sænz's eyes has immense power, enough power to power the entire core once and for all. The only downside is that when they take sænz's eyes, that sænz would die. This of course enrages Undyne. She doesn't want to kill a single friend, even if it means to save the entire underground. It is therefore entirely enraged towards Alphys to even considering killing one of their own kind and one of their only friends. But thanks to this discovery, Undyne has enough will to live once again and continues her queenly duty. But unfortunately, this entire conversation was recorded by an echo flower, and once sænz was walking down Waterfall, he heard how the echo flower recorded this entire conversation, and thanks to that he became extremely anxious and paranoid, fearing that one day Undyne or Alphys would knock on his door and would kill him and steal his eye. So he tries everything in his entire power and mindset to find an alternative so that he wouldn't lose his eye and would leave Papyrus all alone and would lose his life. So he spends days, weeks, or even months in his room to find a solution. He became so desperate to find a solution of how to fix the core that he even starts to write on the walls of his room to find the correct solution to fixing the core, and became even more paranoid that even Papyrus started to think that sænz became crazy. When Papyrus tried to calm down sænz by asking Undyne if he could take a day off, he became extremely worried and extremely paranoid and stopped Papyrus from visiting Undyne. But sænz has no other choice but to visit once again Undyne to inform Undyne and Alphys about his newly discovered discovery and solution to fixing the core. So he enters Hotlet, where he once again sees the effect of how starvation affects the underground, where he sees a child who suffers from starvation die right in front of him. You can already imagine how mentally fucked sænz became after this. He became even more mentally fucked after entering the lab and hearing a desperate scream. He was so paranoid and distressed by this that he started to summon in the entire entrance hall of the lab a lot of sharp bones. I would say the following: if there were people in there, they would most likely die. So extreme was this attack. Sænz, after calming down, was jump scared by a former mother who just lost her only daughter, thanks to Undyne's inability to give this daughter the necessary nutrient and magic food. This mother informs sænz that the underground needs to have changed, that he should join the rebellion monster kind to stop Undyne and take over the entire underground. Sænz was distraught and confused by this declaration, but before she could inform him even further, she leaves laughing like maniac. Sænz enters the lab and informs Undyne that he found a suitable solution that would ensure the safety of the entire underground and a more powerful core. The only problem is that they need to rebuild the entire core once again, which would take months to do so. This means they would have for months no fresh food. This of course enrages Undyne, who, thanks to her queenly duty and just witnessing child die right in front of her and the inability to save this child, to be extremely enraged, while also seeing hallucination of what she could do to save the entire underground. You can already imagine that thanks to that she had a mental breakdown. Sænz noticed this and tried his best to walk away and visit her to another time, but it has to be noted that before he tried to run away, both of them had an extremely brutal arguments between each other. So Undyne was enraged and started to order her guards to hold down sænz so that she could take out sænz's eyes. Sænz was extremely panicking, noticing that Undyne's means business and would take sænz's eyes even if it means it could potentially kill him. So sænz uses his bone magic and kills all the guards all around him, even those guards that beg for him to sacrifice himself to save the entire underground, to save their children. Sænz is enraged, sænz is scared, and sænz doesn't want to die, doesn't want his brother to die, and just continues killing all the remaining guards. Seeing this much power also enrages Undyne, because sænz kept this power all for himself, kept this power a secret, and so a fight between these two begins. And since sænz is the master of dodging, he dodges Undyne's notorious attacks and uses even his magic to reflect Undyne's magic and damage her head by reflecting her spear, which results into her losing the left side of her face, which also results into her losing her bad eye. But Undyne has support, thanks to this support in the form of Alphys, who found out sænz's pattern and gives Undyne the necessary tips and tricks and tutorials to be sænz. Thanks to that, sænz is subdued and lies down on the floor. Undyne uses her device to take out sænz's eyes, and now he lays lifeless underground. Undyne and her guard now uses sænz's eye to power the core, and all of it seems to work. The entire underground is once again fully powered, and electricity and light as well as the food production is once again in full force. Even though sænz damaged her face and killed a lot of her guards, sænz deserved in Undyne's eye a hero's funeral, since he died, even though not willingly, for the entirety of monster kind. But when the guards try to bury sænz gets up, uses his octokinesis to blow up an entire guardsman and steal his eye. And because he is entirely enraged that Undyne and Alphys wanted to kill him, he sets out to kill both Undyne and Alphys. The guardsman runs to Undyne and informs Undyne that they need to destroy sænz's eye, since the eye is what keeps him alive. But it is too late. Sænz kills every single guardsman all around him and teleports into the room where Alphys is located and confronts Alphys. Of course, sænz is entirely enraged, but Alphys presents him the fact that the entire underground is, thanks to his eye, on his way to be completely normal. But sænz can't think clearly. He is still in an enraged modus, and as a result uses his bone magic to destroy the entire core and lobotomize Alphys. Quite brutal if you ask me. Undyne comes too late into the room where Alphys is located and notices that sænz lobotomizes Alphys, and thanks to that, Alphys now is completely mad. As a result to sænz lobotomizing her, and as a result of her witnessing once again that one of her plans backfired and resulted into the death of all of monster kind. A slowly death at that. Sænz, who is still enraged but noticed that Undyne is most likely out for revenge, makes his way to Snowdin and informs everyone in Snowdin that things will change around here. Every single human which will fall down will not be brought to the Queen Undyne, but will be seen as a food source. And no one should leave or enter Snowdin. Papyrus is of course extremely distraught by this declaration that sænz made, especially the one about eating humans, but sænz has planned for that. I don't know if this happened after a human fell down, meaning this happened months or even years after the incident with Undyne, but sænz had a piece of a human with him. And since Papyrus sees eating as a way to connect with each other, sænz was able to trick Papyrus into him believing that what he was eating was just spaghetti leftovers. Papyrus therefore ate these leftovers, not knowing that these were human intestines. And apparently human flesh just acts like a switch to the monster mentality, because by just one single bite, Papyrus' mentality flipped upside down and he became a completely different person, a completely madman who is out for human flesh. Papyrus later on uses this ingredients and presents it to all of the monster in Snowdin. At first everyone was extremely shocked, since Papyrus seems to not notice that what he is presenting them and offering them seems to be human flesh. But thanks to the fact that monsters were starving, they accepted this magnificent dish and ate it. And I said magnificent because everyone started to love this human flesh delicacy that Papyrus made. And so everyone in Snowdin became hooked on human flesh. It has to be noted that thanks to the fact that sænz and Papyrus are both skeleton, they don't starve like all the other monsters do, since they don't need food to survive. They do feel the effect of starvation, but thanks to the fact that they are skeleton, they don't need to eat food. This is apparent since sænz stated that he never ate a human nor a monster, which is why he had the moral high ground towards Aliza, who ate a lot of human remains to steal her hunger.